Making a video. Not really a physics video, so I'm stuck. They keep trying to mix physics and philosophy, which is really irritating. Or just keep them separate subjects. But anyway, so a couple of Hythloday response videos that are quite vacuous and just straw man arguments and unevidenced accusations and the same old routine.
The eye.
I have sped him up.
I know what you're thinking. You should see the other guy. Bloody DIY accident.
And DIY accidents. Do it yourself. So he was putting his shoes on and he punched himself in the face. Apparently. Mommy usually takes care of that.
Right, so let's begin. Question for remember. In your physics model.
I do have this sped up and it's still damn slow, so maybe I'll speed it up a little bit more. Yeah. So in my physics model,
You have Calder coming in and leaving perpendicular. Now, I can't remember, and it's not really relevant, but...
yeah, well, it is really relevant, but whatever. You're going to ask technical questions, and then you're going to say, yeah, well, I'm not going to bother getting the technical details right.
See the light, red goes in, blue comes out or something, right?
No, actually, the red comes in and the red goes out.
And the question is this perpendicularity? I'm sure this is the case. I mean, I just want to double check that you can make more hypotheses about how that happens and why it happens, and that's fine.
Well, I have speculated, so, but yeah, I'm seriously, it's a little bit difficult to sit there and, point out the mechanics of such things. But yeah, it just happens to be the rule that this is how it functions. I mean, I've pointed out how the three dimensions are oriented, where two of them are in the same plane and one of them is off the plane. I've given little bits of kernels of information regarding why it might be this way. And, you're not impressed, okay. I mean, I could argue that, the quanta are the tiniest things. They could be infinitesimally small. And when they're created at a rate, a timing, boom. And they're instantaneously, and so they all have you could argue that the different ones, technically, that different ones have different timing, so to speak, a point of origin, and that those origin points can never intersect because they are so small. And the only thing that can intersect is perpendicular because that geometry is square. So two things created at the same time at 90-degree angles could intersect at some future point, where two things created at other angles could never intersect. Something like that. I mean, it's a geometric thing.
Well, the question is you do conceive as it that because of the smallness, we can't really see for sure how it's happening. But
and let's also understand it's kind of like all the other things that are rules of our existence. Lots of the things you couldn't change, they're constants. Like the speed of light, you make it a little bit faster, a little slower, the whole universe falls apart, lots of things like that. The universe wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for this fact. So I'm just saying perpendicular allows you to create boxes, which is, I think, important. And perpendicular also is reflected in the evidence in the sense that the electromagnetic radiation is always produced perpendicular to velocities, accelerations. So it fits the evidence and it makes for good geometry.
We'll hypothesize that there is some kind of mechanics, that the blue comes in, perhaps, there's a mechanical flip-flop or something, and perhaps a red leaves for a very mechanical reason.
Yes, so you figured all that out, so very good. And I like the little thing, the little mechanical sticky thing is a good metaphor. So what, you're going to hang it on this bullshit? I mean, the fact that it produces exactly what magnetism and electricity do, and it's a very simple mechanism in the sense that it's all or nothing kind of force. The two forces, let's say a perpendicular interaction is two equals interacting. And I could just argue that that's the universe's rule. it can't deal with change. Okay, so it can only exchange energy in dollar amounts. So only things that can make a full exchange can make exchanges. I mean, it could be something that's simple.
So that's the question. Now, the second question is, how is it, if that's the case, that properties have any meaning?
All right, so this argument that somehow, because physics is crude, that somehow we have to assume that there's nothing to see here. Everything else that isn't crude, as the physics, that is the fundamental bits, we can give no meaning, no relevance, no significance to any possible manifestation or construction of those little bits. So no matter how complex I make a consciousness, no matter how big, I could make it the size of a planet, a brain, intricate neurons, all this stuff going on. And because it's made out of these elemental bits just doing this stuff, somehow I can say it's just elemental bits. And I don't have to account for the fact that because of the way it's constructed, it's doing something different, more. Something more is happening because of the arrangement. So you're just saying the word arrangement is irrelevant and meaningless. And I'm saying you're saying it in spite of being a sentient organism, conscious, having sensations, understanding their nature, their fundamental nature, which is unpleasant and pleasant. And you'll just say, forget all of that. That can't mean anything. The only thing that means something is my fascist notion that I'm a superior organism. Because there's no God, I'm going to be God now, and I will declare things to be meaningful based on how I feel about them. I'm saying I can't make any rational sense out of your line of reasoning. None. It just seems completely vacuous. So he's going to obsess now for 4 minutes or whatever on the word purpose. And I've already made video after video to him saying I despise this word. I have no use for this word. It doesn't mean anything. I don't care about intent or agency. I don't give a shit about any. Nazis had agency. Pedophiles have agency. I don't give a fuck about agency. I don't give a fuck about any of this crap. I just give a fuck about a rational, logical, connected facts. And the logical facts I'm dealing with is that, yes, we evolved from crude matter. The crude matter became more complex molecules. The molecules evolved into a DNA molecule somewhere. The DNA molecule created a whole new kind of evolution that created features like our brain. Our brain manifests consciousness because it's functional, because it works in guiding the organism, and it does so by creating a valuing mechanism that I am experiencing, and I'm saying, I don't care if it's an illusion. I don't care what manifests it, whether it's making its own screen and its own projector. It doesn't matter. I'm experiencing it, and I'm quite sure it matters. Quite sure, through the experience of it. There's no way it could ever not be meaningful. There's no way you could ever tell me that if I turned all the matter in the universe into Jews and put them in Mengelo's gurney and pulled their fingernails out forever, it wouldn't be a bad thing. There's no way that couldn't be a bad thing. You say there is a way. I say it's insane, and you're clearly a nihilist, whether you can call yourself something else, fascist if you want, but you have no rational foundation for your philosophy besides a declaration of your agency, which doesn't mean anything.
Other than the context for what they're used, or the words are used. And further, why is it wrong if you take the position that ultimately all that can be said is stuff, does stuff.
Yeah, the does stuff is important. That's why. Yeah, I'm perfectly agreeable to the idea that stuff does stuff. And some of the stuff has a difference. It's doing something different. I'm just saying, pen is doing something different than sentient organism. Roll of tape is doing something different than sentient organism. They're different. You're going to say the difference is insignificant and unnoticeable and of no account and of no significance. And I'm saying, by my understanding of the word significant and important and meaningful, this is a meaningful difference. An incredibly meaningful difference.
There is no function to stuff.
Well, that's just idiotic in the sense that it depends on what you're calling a function. I'm saying a function is its properties, its attributes. They don't have to be intentional. They don't have to have some grand purpose by some designer. They function in the sense that they do something. They secrete something, they produce something, something bounces off of them. That's their function. It doesn't have to go any further than that. That word does not have to be a possession of a god or an agent.
Except the context that we attach meaning to perpendicularity, so we can say this has the function of internal mechanism of ejecting the output.
Well, again, it's not even. We're describing it. So again, you're saying we're giving it meaning by describing it. We're describing the difference between a head-on collision and a perpendicular collision, and saying we can see the difference. You're saying now we've given it meaning because we've noticed the difference. What else are you saying besides that? I'm saying that's a straw man premise, and it's a ludicrous premise.
Perpendicular, but it doesn't have the function in terms of purpose. So
well, again, who gave it purpose? Who said it has an intention or an agent or anything to say, I declare it should be this way? It is that way, okay, because of the mechanisms of the universe. Because stuff did stuff, and the didding means that this is the way you do now. Just as we got did into the current circumstance we're in, and now we do as we got didded.
There's no purpose in...
So again, every time he says the word purpose, just recognize I've made video after video saying I don't have any use for this word. I don't believe in a God. I don't believe that anything exists because it had a purpose. It exists because it satisfied a condition that was imposed, in the sense that you couldn't exist if you didn't fit through the keyhole. You couldn't get into the next room unless you could make yourself into a keyhole and go through the keyhole. There was rules to getting into the future. The things that obeyed those circumstantial rules, not rules written by somebody, just circumstantial rules. Those rules dictated a certain configuration, and only the things that achieved that configuration made it into the future. What is so complex about that? Why do we have to sit there and strangle words and vocabulary to get across the concept that I am not imposing a doer or a function or an intention? There's no intention. It just satisfied the conditions.
The whys of stuff doing stuff. And if there's no purpose in stuff at any level, you can't build it.
Well, see, again, you say at any level. So again, you just keep saying that no matter how complex or interesting I make it, so to speak, no matter how many attributes I give it, double three-dimensional consciousness, I could pile on the interesting attributes and they'd all mean nothing to you. And so what can I say except I don't understand. You can tell the difference between a head-on collision and a perpendicular collision, and yet you can't tell the difference between a pill bottle and a human brain. I'm sorry. All I can say is, what? How much shit are you full of? I mean, is it all shit? Is all this extra weight you've gained just shit?
Purpose. Out of purposelessness. Thus, evolution didn't have purpose. The giraffe didn't get a long neck by willing it. The giraffe didn't...
You really think I need this instruction? I've made videos called Unintelligent Design. I mean, I've argued for it. I need this patronizing nonsense? This has something to do with my argument. My argument's premised on the fact that I think our consciousness means something because somebody made it? A god invented it? Where do you get that? How can you pervert my video collection into saying or implying that I've ever made such an argument? without calling yourself a despicable liar.
Decide it needed it, but it didn't function. Very much plays a role of being situated as a concept within agency and arbitrary assignment.
Agency and then arbitrary in the same sentence. First, again, I'll say it again. Agency means nothing to me. There is no such thing as a free agent or a qualified agent or by just a title. You have to demonstrate that. So the only thing about agency that could possibly have any value is whether it's rational agency, fully informed agency. It has to be a qualified agent. If it's not a qualified agent, agent doesn't mean anything. Then you're just saying Dumb and Dumber had agency. Who cares? But I would also fundamentally argue that nothing has agency in any free sense or any outside of an obligation to, whether it's nonsense or whether it's facts. They're obligated by the program. So they're going to be machines anyway.
Of vocabulary to reliable, regular processes.
Well, again, the rules you break in terms of abuse of vocabulary just bug the fuck out of me. So I don't know how... the way you use this word, agency and arbitrary, this word arbitrary just falls out of your mouth every 15 seconds, and it's just a nonsense word. Because actually nothing is arbitrary. It's just not really a real word. Everything does happen for a historical reason. It happens because of circumstances, and it's never arbitrary. That's almost like saying there's a real random. There just isn't.
So if nothing has purpose at a fundamental level, the giraffe, neither does...
Well, again, so he keeps premising this argument on the use of a word I've already distanced myself from, saying I have absolutely no use for this undefined word purpose. It's like using the word love in a sentence. It just doesn't mean anything. So unless you're going to explicitly and carefully define what you're saying, the purpose is that you're putting in my mouth, this word purpose, fuck you. And clearly what's not ever spoken out of my mouth is that a God gave it purpose, or an intelligence gave it purpose. I'm arguing that we, as intelligences, can tell the difference between a roll of tape and a puppy. We can do that. And it would be stupid for us not to do that.
Species decide to have the purpose that we need the function along the neck to reach. Yeah? No queen of nature decided the giraffe needed function along the neck.
Right, so now he's saying I believe in a queen of nature, when I've only made video after video calling, Mother Nature a skanky whore zombie. Hardly a queen.
Neck. No god of evolution decided that the giraffe needs the function of...
Well, and if you're going to say God of evolution as a metaphor, then you're probably breaking the rules right there. Because as a metaphor, it did dictate. The standards of the evolution did dictate what was going to succeed and fail. So again, the process does have rules. Not written by a brain, written by circumstance. Once it goes left, it's going lefter, kind of a thing.
Along the neck. It didn't need to... I need to put up a mechanism with the purpose of allowing the giraffe an extended reach to get the...
Again, huge straw man argument here. Again, I'm just about the most aggressive atheist on YouTube, and here you are preaching to me about how there's no God. Fuck you. Just fuck you.
The nutrients from that top end of the tree also. Yeah? This assignment of function and purpose to a determinist is silly nonsense.
So he's saying it's a silly nonsense for a determinist to recognize that the process configures things differently, and they end up with different functions. Evolution, believing in evolution in the sense that the process mandated created rules of possibility. And in fact, because the universe is deterministic, it wasn't just possible, it was going to be inevitable. But, obviously, we can't see the inevitability. but it's there. Again, why this bullshit that this is somehow a God theory?
Certainly in the strong ways that you suggest. Now, you call me a nihilist. I'm not a nihilist.
You're a nihilist if you're not going to be able to tell that there's a significant difference. If you can't say the words, there is a significant material difference between a pill bottle and a conscious human brain. If you can't say that, okay, you're a nihilist.
Because I'm an objective moralist, but it's...
Objective moralist. So again, use words that really don't mean anything. So objective in the sense of what? You're not biased? That would be my definition of objective. Objective would be fully informed point of view, as close as possible to the fully informed point of view, and without bias. And morality? Morality is what? It's not ethics. It's not values. What the fuck is morality? Fascist dictatorship.
Situated in a context where you have to allow perceived agency.
Perceived agency. Again, why would I care about perceived agency or even actual agency? I don't even care whether agency is perceived or actual. It means nothing when it's stupid, when it's ill-informed, when it's underqualified. What do I care if somebody says I'm a very good driver? I can drive the car. I have agency. I can do it. And they don't know how to drive. Well, what's the point? Agency doesn't mean anything.
And my form of morality is not based on this.
It's based on a Judeo-Christian arrogance. We're human. We can add 2 + 2, and we can talk and speak languages, different kinds of languages, some better than others, of course. And therefore, we're better than everything else, and we can eat them and kill them and brutalize them because we're superior beings. La, 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 la. That's just a fucking religious fascism.
Necessarily a linguistic way of speaking and valuation approach.
Or whatever that means. So it's all, well, I talk gobbledygook, and, my gobbledygook it goes because I've declared myself God. Because I'm an agent.
So you ask for examples about how am I not fair to the argument? Well, almost every video is not unfair. It is unfair to your interlocutor.
Oh, yes, right. I play more of other people's videos than anybody else on YouTube, and yet I get this accusation that I've somehow done an unfairness to my illocutors. No, you're just terrible arguers. I've never been unfair to you. And again, this whole argument, you bring these, like I said, you because your insults are less verbally specific and explicit, because they're not explicit, they're implicit and hidden, your insults. That's okay. But if you just directly come right out and say, fuck you, asshole, no, that's not okay.
You're just blindly biased to your own hypocrisies.
Absolutely no evidence of this hypocrisy thing. So, fuck you. Nonsensical rubbish. I'm a hypocrite because I'm a determinist who can recognize the difference between pill bottle and conscious brain. Because I say those two things are fundamentally, substantially, let's say, not fundamentally, but substantial. Well, they are fundamentally different. I mean, this has almost zero chemistry compared to this. So there are huge fundamental differences. But yes, there's almost every kind of difference. The differences are so, you could go on and on and on. There's so many differences. So there, I'm a hypocrite. Because you have to believe in God to be able to recognize the difference between a feeling thing and a non-feeling thing. That's a religious theory. According to this fucking, guy who can't put his shoes on without punching himself in the face. Alright, on to video number shit 2. It's more or just the same. I mean, just incredible, just shit talk, no value at all. Let's see, speed this double speed too, because he is so much slower than I thought.
Insults. I don't get things first. Remember, register yourself. I've just registered myself when I intend to submit a paper.
Right. I've done this twice. I've registered with 2 different organizations.
You want proper recognition and peer review? I was worried it allows you and somebody will take a look at a paper you submit.
No, this idea that somebody will take a look, it means like Piro will take a look. And we already know what Piro does. You know, he reads every other sentence as best. And so, yeah, some moron will read it and decide, that sounds like garbage to me. And so it doesn't go anywhere. And you don't get any counter-argument. So you just waste your time. And their formatting rules are preposterous. I mean, it's not like they say, hey, just send us a PDF with the images, inside the PDF and blah, blah, blah. No. It's got to be a 1986 PDF format with blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's insipid. And they're scientists. I mean, their ability to process information is apparently really bad. I should be able to send the damn thing in Notepad if that's my choice.
I'd implore you to, if you want a paper to be actually published, it's going to have to look like concrete science, and I think it will have to have a certain format in terms of.
Yeah. Well, again, I clearly have covered enough of the format. I mean, the abstraction is, physics is full of shit. Let's get on to the argument.
An abstract, an introduction, and well constructed paper. That's that one. Now on to.
So again, I didn't really need this instruction. I submitted it to Nature. They sent me back just a nothing. No. That's it. No. You don't get reviewed. You don't get an argument. You don't get anything back. So I mean, it's of what value? Frankly, you don't know who's reading it. Nobody's name's on it, so you can't take them to task. You can't, you don't get to in the future humiliate the fuck out of them. So what's the point? Nobody's accountable for anything, and it's just for the discretion of their readers. They're just going to publish what they think their readers want to hear. So it's like submitting news to the news media. It's a waste of your time.
Just this is your video because it doesn't warrant complete analysis.
Well, look, your conversation with Piro doesn't warrant anybody to listen to it because it was so full of rambly nonsense, incoherent mush. You didn't get to anything real. You just talked about different phantasmagorical, silly thought experiments about, well, what if Bugs Bunny drew us in his cartoon book?
This exemplifies everything that is wrong with your analysis.
No, I'm sorry. Your video was crap. It was just a load of steaming shit. Anybody who could make any sense out of it, they deserve a reward for, having extrasensory perception, because there was no way. Even, like I said, the people in the chat couldn't make anything out of it. Not one single chatter said a single thing relevant to what you idiots were talking about. That's how obtuse you were.
Repeatedly challenge your viewers, your interlocutors, to explain to you when are you unfair to the other person's argument. Well, as previously referenced in my video, and now more detailedly exemplified, here is a concrete example.
Okay, so he's going to give a concrete example where he doesn't actually play the clip of himself giving this brilliant example of what he was talking about. That wasn't what I pigeonholed it as, which was rubbish.
And this is the real question is, when are you ever fair to somebody else's argument? Now, show me an example.
Yeah, so again, I'm being unfair to your argument how? Again, it's just, so okay, if this is your example, this is the best you can do for evidence of my unfairness, I'd say, again, you fail, because even in your demonstration, you don't play enough context for anyone to even judge whether I mistreated your argument.
Example of that, I would like to see. So, I've just demonstrated the principles of information context, where each domino represents a complete configuration.
Where did you do this? Each domino represents a complete configuration. So where did you do that? You just demonstrated this somewhere? Where did you do that?
And I am explaining the doctrine of information conservation as held by scientific establishment.
As held by scientific establishment. I don't even know if it is the establishment. I mean, Susskind is the one who did this stupid information crap, and because he wants to put it in the fucking hologram that's, you know, being composed inside the black hole's event horizon, where all the information that the thing, that shoe that falls in there, the entire history of the shoe is somehow now stored in the compiled information. So now we know where every atom was in the entire history since the Big Bang. We know exactly where all the atoms ever were because it's now in the shoe hologram. I mean, it's nonsensical rubbish. There's no information held by anything. And the only way you could ever know history is you have to put all the little pieces back into this. You have to dramatize it. You have to actually reconstruct the circumstance. Okay, so there's no history for the individual shoe. You have to put the man. You have to put Abraham Lincoln in the shoe, and then you have to put him, you know, in the courtyard, and then you have to put the other guy he's arguing with over there, and then you have to put his emancipation speech in his hand, and then you have to put all this shit in there. It doesn't. There's no history carried by anything. The pieces don't carry the history. The history is in the entire universe, and it always is, and it's meaningless to sit there and take the shoe out of it and say the shoe is carrying the universe's history. It has no idea how to reconstruct the universe. You can't reconstruct the universe with just the shoe. You have to have the entire universe to reconstruct the history of the shoe or the context of the shoe.
I'm not proposing that time can be reversed, and you do me an injustice.
Well, I don't think I did you an injustice. I played you saying what you said, which was, well, you know, theoretically it's possible. Well, no, it's only possible if you reconstruct the entire universe and then hit the reverse button or something. In a model. You have to make a model, and then you have to make the model go backwards. But there's no way. You can't do it. You can't reconstruct the entire fucking universe in a fucking, you know, whatever, courtroom or something.
It isn't anything possible to go backwards. In principle, it's just practically impossible.
It's just practically impossible. So somehow it's theoretically possible, but not possible. You know, okay, I mean, I understand sometimes we just kind of trip over our own words. I've no doubt said things like that before, like, well, you know, it's not very likely, but, you know, functionally it can't happen, you know, or something like that. So, okay. I mean, the point is there's no point in giving it any latitude at all. There's no going back, because you have to make everything in the universe go back. Everything has to go back, not just the one thing.
Now, this reversibility is to do with understanding the nature and the statement of information conservation.
Well, again, I just think the word information conservation is, again, this is just your doopy speak or scumbag speak or arrogant human speak to turn things into information. No, if you said, you know, stuff conservation or movement conservation or happening conservation, I could probably live with it. But this pretentious, it's information that little humans are playing with. I mean, it's just so pretentious, and it has absolutely nothing to do with information. It has to do with things that happen. The things are not information. Our model is information. The thing is not information. Fuck. You can't see how arrogant this is? I imagine it, and the thing in my imagination is so much more important than the real thing. I mean, it's disgusting.
Okay, well, I disagree. I think, Pyro disagrees at this stage, but I think it revises this position, or we come to an understanding.
Oh, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. If he came to an understanding with Piro, it means he's going to contradict it the next day, so it doesn't mean a damn thing.
It's possible you can lug out, and there's only one stage that leads to your current state. Right, so that statement by Pyro, that, generally speaking, more than one state can lead to your current state. Now, that's just in flat opposition to current.
Yeah, why don't you call it a nonsense? See, if you were arguing with me, you'd say that's a nonsense. Yeah, see, your hypocrisy is glaring. Bubbles.
Physics, in terms of, I'll just leave it at that, but watch the video, I make a nice domino analogy.
All right, nice domino analogy. Well, it's not really dominoes, though. The problem isn't flipping things back up, physically getting the energy to flip something back up. The problem is you have to reconstruct everything.
Having conversations about going backwards is just so retarded. You just imagine going backwards from the moment of your conception. And so you're stuck with, well, one moment it was fertilized, the next moment it wasn't. And one of the 10 zillion sperms are going to do the fertilizing. You have to pick the right one.
So there is where you don't seem to comprehend what is being said to you.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. I use an off-the-top-of-my-head analogy to explain the difficulty of attempting to go backwards. And what I was trying to get to was, yes, it's going to be, even if we had like really hard control over the physical processes and the little rays of stuff, the idea that you can reverse the chemistry, like a forest fire, somehow I could reverse the forest fire and, by pushing all the energy back in and reconstruct the trees with leaves and all of that stuff. I'm just saying that that's a physically, I think, impossible. Even if you took everything and forced it to go back exactly the way it went in, the function of the atomic structure is such that I don't think it permits that kind of conservation. It's sort of a one-way fall apart.
I explain the context. The context of understanding here, in terms of forward and backward travel, is about distinctions in information and what that means for information conservation.
Well, whatever. Distinctions in information. Again, well, let me just declare then. Whatever. I'll just say I choose to be immune to these conversations then. Okay, whatever you're blaming on any kind of information theory, I say, who cares? I wish you wouldn't talk about it. I think you're silly people, because frankly, there's absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing to talk about events in the universe as information. In my opinion, it's just absolute rubbish. They're events. You can say event conservation, but this information conservation it's an obscenely perverse, human-centric way of analyzing our reality. It's a grotesque bias built into the language. And why should somebody who's a serious thinker accept something that gratuitous? I mean, it's gratuitously offensive to the dignity of reality.
Not going backwards. I mean, just not going backwards. It's a retarded concept.
What's retarded is not listening, not learning. You say you've been at this for 7 years or so. Well, it's a bit disappointing.
Well, whatever. This information theory obviously doesn't have any part of the stuff I've been at for 7 years. I'm really totally uninterested in your euphemisms for reality. So, yeah, fuck you and your euphemisms. So use some sort of language that makes some sort of sense about reality conservation or energy conservation or movement conservation or something conservation. But, yes, as long as you're going to sit there and pedophile all over reality, fuck you. I'm not going to play that game.
And you should really reflect on your intellect if this is where you were right at and you're still stuck at the same level of childish analysis.
Well, what was childish about my analysis? Again, you don't illustrate exactly what's childish about saying you're not going back. Unless you can reconstruct the entire universe, you're not going backwards. Ever.
Earlier, you called Pyro and myself petty. And immediately said we are petty small wieners. Now, if that isn't the definition of being petty...
No, it's the definition of giving you back what you give, which is a lack of respect. So again, I could go through all the times that you've discounted, you've called something stupid or ludicrous or arbitrary or erroneous or some other kind of bullshit terminology you've used to dismiss something. And I'll just say, yes, so you're getting what you give, asshole. You give a lack of respect, you get it. The fact that you assholes have lame insults, that's your problem. I'm just much better at creating a good insult.
Into such schoolyard insults.
Well, again, I'll point out every time you use dismissive and disrespectful language, your offhand remarking kind of stuff about other people's commentary or the quality of their work, and I'll just point out. So, what do you think you deserve in response to that? You say somebody's ill-informed, or you say you need to get educated. You say these kind of things, and you're saying, well, nobody should respond to that with anything in kind. Fuck you.
I don't believe this.
So, anyway, dumbass. So, yes, there's really no point. I'm arguing with somebody who, punches himself in the face putting his sneakers on. My bad. Idiot. He's an idiot.